that supporting segregation need not be racist, said Mr. Connerly. One can believe in segregation and believe in equality of the races. Do you recall making that statement?
I do.
And is that an accurate representation?
That's an accurate representation.
Okay, and then you were asked to explain this, and on page 3349, in the last quote from you on the page, there's a statement attributed to you saying, supporting segregation need not be racist. One can believe in segregation and believe in equality of the races. So it doesn't necessarily make it racist, but I think it's certainly a poor direction for this nation to have pursued, namely segregation. I won't say that he's racist. I don't think he is. I think one could believe in equality of the races, as he talked about, and believe that the races should remain separate and not have a notion that black people are inferior, for example. But I just cannot reconcile those words that he said. I don't know what he could have meant by all of these problems.
Right.
And those are true.
Yeah, they're true.
Yeah. But you said that you did have cause to wonder about what he meant by that statement. And why did that raise concerns to you? I don't know what he could have meant by all of these problems. What was it about the statement that raised concern to you?
I'm not among those who rushes to call someone a racist. One has to earn that characterization from me. Let me share with you an experience that I've had which has helped to shape my tolerance, if you will, on this issue. My wife is of a different, quote, race than I am. When we married in 1962, my in-laws objected to that marriage. They had come from Oklahoma, one from Oklahoma, the other from Idaho. Their view was that God had made the races differently, and it was God's will that the races remain separate. Not that one was inferior to the other, it was just the way that God intended it. He made horses and sheep and human beings, and they were supposed to be separate. By the time they died, these two people, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, were the only parents that I had. To suggest that they were racist did not fit with the people that I grew to know. They grew up, Miss Driver, at a different time, a different place, different perspective. Wrong perspective. But it wasn't that they were racist, it was just the way they had been raised. And they subsequently came to change that view. And I still believe that people can change. So I don't rush out and say, he's bad, he's a racist. Shun him. My view is, as I said in Michigan, if the Ku Klux Klan has changed their view, those on your side can portray me as a guy who's supporting the Ku Klux Klan. No, not at all. They're a hateful group. What I'm saying is that they've changed, God bless them. We want them to change. We should work every day of our lives to change them.
But nothing changed about their position, Mr. Connerly. They knew that that the passage of this proposal would mean the exclusion of black students from the University of Michigan, and they supported that outcome.
I'm not supporting the Ku Klux Klan. I don't know about the Klan. You probably know more about them than I do because you've done the research. I have nothing to do with them. They're not a part of our campaign. I'm explaining to you my position about this issue of segregation, and that there are people who believe in it who may not necessarily believe that blacks are inferior, just that blacks, or any other group for that matter, ought to be separated from others because that's the way that God intended it. Flawed, very wrong, inherently a wrong philosophy.
Mr. Connerly, you've raised a number of times in this deposition that you're black. It matters to you that I know that, and that I take that into consideration in appraising your life experience, what you know, and what you say. Isn't that true?
Ms. Driver, I couldn't care a horse patootie what you think about me. I couldn't care less.
Okay.
I'm telling you that because it is obvious, and sometimes that reality shapes how I see things. But I couldn't give a whatever about of how you feel about me. Believe me.
I do believe you, Mr. Connerly. But you say that when you raised in this deposition that you're black, it matters to you because it shaped how you view things. Isn't that true?
To some extent.
It's a factor in your life. Isn't that true?
Not anymore.
Oh, it's no longer a factor?
It is a factor that every day recedes more and more from the reality.
Why?
What I'm sharing with you, and the reason I bring it up is that, and I would urge you to look at the context in which I bring it up. I brought it up, is because others see that. Don't treat me better necessarily or worse, but others see that. And so what I was sharing with you, my perspective when we talk about slavery or we talk about Jim Crow, I cannot ignore the fact that I was born in the Deep South, a black child who had to endure that. It is relevant for me to tell you that.
It's relevant to who you are. Isn't that correct, that you are black?
No. It's relevant for purposes of this deposition that I share with you my background. It's not relevant to who I am.
Mr. Connerly, I can see that you're black, but the fact that you've raised it more than a dozen times in this deposition suggests to me that it's something that you wanted to emphasize. Isn't that true?
No, I've told you no. Now, you want to draw your own conclusions. I don't care. But as we're talking about Jim Crow and you're walking me through the tulips of the 1940s and 50s and 60s, it is relevant for me to give you my perspective as a black man.
But it's not relevant to have black students at the University of Michigan or the University of California at Berkeley or UCLA to give their experience as black people anymore?
If they want to share their experience, that is totally relevant. Is it relevant for us to apply a different standard to admit them? No, that is not relevant. That is not appropriate.
To have them there, to have black students at the University of Michigan, you now know is extremely, it has been made much more difficult by the passage of Prop 2, hasn't it?
Until we and they correct that academic gap, yes, it is more difficult.
So they won't be there to give that perspective.
They are there. They are there. They may not be there in the numbers that you would like, but they are there.
They're there in too small numbers, aren't they?
Is that a really a question or what? I don't know if
really
it's a
a
small
question.
number. When they earn the right to be there, and I don't care what the standard is, make sure it's the same standard for everybody.
This isn't a colorblind society, is it, Mr. Connerly?
I'm not trying to make it a colorblind society. I just want our government to be colorblind.
I don't have any further questions for you.